Hello everybody, welcome back to more political chatter. We are back with another 2024 election prediction. This one is between Sharrod Brown, a senator from the state of Ohio, versus Donald Trump, the former president of the United States of America. Sharrod Brown is very progressive. He is extremely popular among the Democratic Party, and 10 years ago, I really could see him being a Democratic, at least a Democratic presidential candidate, for the nomination. I mean, now not so much as he is aging, but really, he is still very progressive among his own party, and he's facing off against Donald Trump, who, is obviously extremely conservative. Donald Trump in 2024, he would be running for re-election, but a second non-consecutive term in office, and so it'd be pretty interesting to see if he'd be the first president to do so since Grover Cleveland. So let's get into it. If you have noticed, I changed the style of the map to terminal. Looks pretty edgy. Tell me if you liked it in the comments, or if I should, get back to the normal dark scale, whatever it's called, or gray scale. Alright, so let's get into it. So Sharrod Brown would win states like California and Washington, D.C., Maryland, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Vermont. Maine's first solidly, all progressive states. Moving on to Delaware, it is Biden's home state, and, Biden is unpopular. I will mention that. That definitely will play a part. Biden is unpopular, and that will, it will not turn out a few Democrats for Sharrod Brown. But the thing is about Sharrod Brown is that he's progressive. He's not closely aligned with the Biden administration, which really will help him win, turn out Democrats and independents who don't believe in the Biden administration. Then, states like New York, New Jersey and Oregon, two states that went likely for Hillary Clinton and kind of almost went likely for Biden. With someone like Biden, these are definitely going to be likely states, but not solid states. So solid is 15% or more margins. But really, with Sharrod Brown, who's so progressive and popular, Oregon will go solid and New Jersey will go solid because these two states are two very progressive states. And they don't, they would rather want a progressive nominee, such as Sharrod Brown, rather than a moderate kind of boring moderate nominee, such as Biden, or someone like Phil Murphy, who ran for governor in those two states. Moving on to save Trump states: Utah, Wyoming, Idaho, Montana, North and South Dakota, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, West Virginia, Nebraska at large. Nebraska's first will flip back into the solid column. Nebraska's third will stay solid, and also Kansas will flip back from likely into the solid column. And then, states like South Carolina and Alaska and we'll get to Maine second because that one is pretty interesting. But, these two states are very Republican, but not quite solid. Moving on to Nebraska's second congressional district. I mean, you go back to 2012, Obama won this by 8 points. And this was his re-election campaign, where he did, worse than in 2008, a lot worse, right? Where states like Indiana and North Carolina flipped back red, and but Maine second stayed with Obama by 8 points because he was progressive. Go to 2016. Hillary Clinton is more moderate than progressive, right? She's liberal, but she's not like a progressive like Bernie Sanders. She is not the real deal, as I say. I'm just kidding. I don't say that. But sorry. Let me just check something. I think my mic cut out for a second there. Sorry about that. But anyway, and then so Maine second flips back, or not back, but flips red. It goes to Trump by 10 points. And it goes to him again in 2020 by 8 points now because Joe Biden is a moderate. So I really think that Sharrod Brown would do well in Maine's second congressional district. But Trump won big here. Bigger than Obama, right? So about the same as Obama, actually. So, this shows that Maine second is one of the states where Trump had this strange appeal. Remember, he had the strange appeal in the Rust Belt, in Arizona, in Florida, and Maine second, this rural district, is one of these, not really a state, but a district. So I do think that Trump would once again carry Maine's 2nd congressional district, but I do think that this would be closer this time. I think that he would win by a lean margin, so a margin of 1 to 5%. Now, Iowa and Ohio are two interesting states because Sharrod Brown has a Rust Belt appeal. We have to remember that. He comes from the state of Ohio, and he has this Rust Belt appeal. He's going to have more of an appeal in Ohio than Iowa, obviously because he comes from the state of Ohio. But, let's get into it. Maine's 2nd, a very progressive district. I see it going to Sharrod Brown by a lean margin. Not likely just because Biden is unpopular. But a state like Minnesota, I see Sharrod Brown winning by a likely margin because it is a Democratic state and it is a very progressive state. And they would really like how Sharrod Brown comes from this key Rust Belt here. Moving on to Iowa, I see Sharrod Brown really turning out progressives, but Trump's win in 2016 and 2020, big wins in both years, even though 2020 was a blue wave year, shows that Trump has more of an appeal here. He has a very strong appeal here. Iowa is lean, not likely. Moving on to the state of Ohio, I see this, we'll get to Ohio, actually. Let's go somewhere else because the blue wall in Ohio is going to be excruciatingly close. I don't see Sharrod Brown doing very well in the South because Biden, he was Obama's vice president and he really turned out African Americans. Down here, he was able to come close in Georgia, North Carolina, not so much Florida. But he really turned out African Americans because he was Obama's vice president. He was closely aligned with the Obama administration. Sharrod Brown, not so much. Sure, he's a progressive, and most African Americans are progressive. However, the fact of the matter is he hasn't worked with someone like Obama, or he doesn't have a direct. He's not directly aligned with helping African Americans out, helping the African American community. So really that will he won't do as well as Biden down here, and especially saying that Biden is unpopular now and the Democrats are at a disadvantage, while in 2020 the Republicans were at a disadvantage. So North Carolina, I would say lean Trump because African Americans do want a progressive candidate. Georgia, I would say becomes lean Trump also. And Florida, I say becomes lean Trump, probably close to being likely. I see it shifting to the right just a little bit. But, I don't see Sharrod Brown winning many independents down here. Moving on to Virginia, Sharrod Brown will be well liked in Virginia. He does have some appeal here too. I would say Virginia becomes or is still likely a Democrat because remember, Sharrod Brown is not Joe Biden. Never mind, I'm sorry. But anyway, moving down to Texas, again, I don't see Sharrod Brown doing that well in the Sun Belt, in the South here. Texas will probably stay likely Trump, and he's put closer to 270 electoral votes. He's now at 234 to Sharrod Brown's 205. But New Mexico and Colorado are two very progressive states, especially the state of Colorado. I think Sharrod Brown will do very well here. He doesn't have, a special appeal here because he's not from the Rust Belt. But these are two progressive states that I think Sharrod Brown will do pretty well in. I see it going back blue. Along with the state of Nevada, which I see staying lean. But Arizona, I'm just giving to Donald Trump by a lean margin just because Biden is unpopular, and we do have to take that into account, that the president is unpopular, and, it's going to hurt any Democrat, especially in a pretty conservative state like Arizona. But moving on to the state of New Hampshire, you really have to have a bad Democratic nominee to lose the state of New Hampshire in 2024. I would say it stays likely Brown because Sharrod Brown will be a pretty popular nominee. Then moving on to Maine's 2nd, I should have called this earlier. It'll stay likely for the Democratic Party. Moving on to the blue wall. So we have a very close election here. It's going to be very close either way. Moving up in Michigan, I think that this will be a lean Sharrod Brown. Because he does have this appeal here, he will do very well in the Rust Belt because he comes from this region. He comes from the state of Ohio. He knows the jobs. He knows the climate. He knows what the people want here. Michigan, being one of these states, plus it's the most liberal of the blue wall. It has African Americans, very progressive African Americans who will turn out for Sharrod Brown rather than moderate African Americans in the South. I think that Michigan will be a lean Brown, and that puts Sharrod Brown at 247 electoral votes, just two ahead of former President Trump. But moving on to the state of Wisconsin. I'm gonna leave Wisconsin. We'll get to Wisconsin. Moving on to Ohio. Sure, Sherrod Brown is a senator from here, but I think that Donald Trump will be able to carry the state of Ohio by a tilt margin. I mean, he did it shifted to the left so little compared to other states in 2020. So little, no one expected that. They were wanting the Democrats to make Ohio very close, but it wasn't close at all. Trump wins it by 8 points when he won it by 8.1% in 2016. It was such a close it was not a close race here at all, is what I meant to say. It shifted to the left so little, and it shows that Trump does have this appeal. I mean, Sherrod Brown will make it close because he's from the state, but ultimately, the amount that shifted to the left shows that this is a Trump state. The Republicans will turn out for Trump, and in an environment where Joe Biden is unpopular, it will go tilt Trump. If Biden was popular, it becomes tilt Brown. But with Biden unpopular, it's tilt Trump at this point in time. Moving on to Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, our two last states. Trump needs 8 more electoral votes to win. Sherrod Brown needs to carry both of these states to win. Trump just needs one of them. Alright, so moving on to the state of Pennsylvania. I think that the state of Pennsylvania will go tilt Brown. I mean, just because that I feel like Pennsylvania is less of an Ohio or Iowa state. I feel like it is, Iowa and Ohio are going to be two states with more suburbs and more rural areas where Trump was able to turn out voters and therefore win these two states. I think of it as less of a rural and suburban state, and I think of it more of a blue wall state, a state that will go to Sherrod Brown. So, I think the state of Pennsylvania will go to Sherrod Brown by a tilt margin. But moving on to Wisconsin. Whoever wins Wisconsin wins the presidency. This will be a very close race. 10 electoral votes here. If Sherrod Brown wins the state, he will have 276 electoral votes. If Trump wins it, he will have 272 electoral votes. So really, every single electoral vote matters in this presidential race. So, who wins the state of Wisconsin? Really, I think that Sherrod Brown has enough appeal to pull off a win. I really think so. I think he's going to win by a tilt margin. He comes from the Rust Belt, and he knows the people here. Democrats will turn out for him, and he's not like someone like the Senate race. Let's take the Senate race into example. I think that Ron Johnson will win because he's the incumbent. Well, there's no particular incumbent. Trump, he used to be a president, but there is no incumbent. There's no incumbency factor. Biden as the nominee, the incumbency factor will hurt him because he's Biden and he's unpopular. But with Sherrod Brown, a progressive with bold new ideas and a progressive, Obama was the last progressive and he didn't want universal health care or to eliminate student debt or anything. So I think that Wisconsin would vote for someone who's unlike Biden, like Sherrod Brown. So Sherrod Brown pulls out a win somehow with 276 electoral votes to Trump's 262. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and I will see you all next time.